Have you ever pondered about the events that marked the First War of Indian Independence in 1857? This was no ordinary skirmish, but the first significant uprising against British colonial rule, a revolt that would forever change the course of Indian history. The year 1857 was a boiling point of discontent and anger. The British East India Company, which had been steadily expanding its control over Indian territories, had imposed a series of policies that were deeply unpopular among the Indian population. The annexation of native states, the heavy taxation, the disrespect for local customs and traditions, all these were catalysts for the uprising that was to come. But the straw that broke the camel's back was the introduction of the new Enfield P53 rifle. The cartridges for this rifle were greased with animal fat, a fact that deeply offended both Hindu and Muslim soldiers. Hindus considered cows sacred, and Muslims were forbidden to consume pork. The soldiers were required to bite off the paper cartridges to load the rifle, a task that was seen as a direct violation of their religious beliefs. This wasn't just a matter of religious sensitivity, it was an affront to their dignity and honor. The sepoys, as the Indian soldiers were known, felt they were being forced to compromise their faith, their very identity. It was an act of arrogance and insensitivity that the sepoys would not tolerate. The revolt was not just about the cartridges, though. It was about a deep-seated resentment against the oppressive British rule. It was about the exploitation of Indian resources, the marginalization of Indian industries, the imposition of Western values, and the blatant disregard for Indian culture and traditions. It was a cry for freedom, for independence, for the right to govern their own land. And so, the stage was set for a revolt that would shake the foundations of the British Empire in India. This was the Unheard Tale of 1857. The beginning of a struggle that would last for almost a century, leading to the birth of an independent India. Do you know what was the spark that ignited this monumental uprising? It started with an act of defiance from a man named Mangal Pandey, a sepoy in the 34th Bengal Native Infantry. As the story goes, the British had introduced new Enfield rifle cartridges that were greased with animal fat. This was deeply offensive to the Hindu and Muslim soldiers, as the cartridges had to be bitten off before use, violating their religious beliefs. Mangal Pandey, refusing to accept this imposition, rebelled against his British superiors on the 29th of March, 1857. His act of rebellion was not just a personal protest, but a symbol of rising discontent among the Indian soldiers. Pandey's rebellion became the spark that ignited the fire of the 1857 revolt. Now, let's delve into how this spark spread like wildfire. The news of Pandey's rebellion, his subsequent arrest and execution, stirred up a storm among the sepoys. The seeds of discontent had been sown, and the greased cartridges were the last straw. The rebellion quickly spread from Barakpur, where Pandey's regiment was stationed, to Meerut, Delhi, and beyond. In Meerut, on the 10th of May, nearly 85 out of 90 sepoys in the 3rd Bengal Light Cavalry refused to accept the greased cartridges. As a result, they were court-martialed and sentenced to 10 years of hard labor. This act of punishment further fanned the flames of rebellion, leading to a widespread mutiny in Meerut, which soon spread to Delhi. The swift spread of rebellion was not just restricted to the army. It also found resonance among the civilian population, who were grappling with their own grievances against the British. The peasantry, the artisans, the zamindars, all sections of society were affected by the British policies and their high-handedness. This collective discontent led to an upsurge that engulfed northern and central India. As the fire of rebellion spread, the country was set ablaze with the spirit of freedom. This was no longer a single act of defiance, but a nationwide uprising that marked the beginning of India's long struggle for independence. But how did the revolt unfold, and what were its pivotal moments? The siege of Delhi in the summer of 1857 served as a crucial turning point in the rebellion. It began when Indian soldiers, disillusioned by the oppressive British rule, seized the city of Delhi. The Indian soldiers were not just rebels, they were reclaimers of their homeland, their heritage, and so they re-established the Mughal emperor, Bahadur Shah Zafar, as the ruler, symbolically restoring the old order. Delhi, once the heart of the Mughal Empire, was now the epicenter of a massive revolt. The city's capture marked a significant victory for the rebels, but it was also the start of a series of grueling battles and events that would test their resolve. The British, taken aback by the audacity of the rebellion, responded with a fierce counter-offensive. The city walls echoed with the sounds of cannon fire and musket shots as the British forces launched repeated assaults against the rebels' fortifications. The rebels, however, were determined and fought valiantly, repelling the British advances time and time again. Among the significant battles during this period was the Battle of Badli Ki Sarai, where the rebels, despite their courageous efforts, suffered a crushing defeat. The British, leveraging their superior military tactics and weaponry, managed to break through the rebels' defenses, causing heavy casualties. Even in the face of defeat, the spirit of the rebels remained unbroken. They regrouped and continued to resist the British forces, turning the city into a battleground for months. The siege of Delhi thus became a symbol of the Indian soldiers' relentless fight for their freedom and dignity. However, as the siege wore on, the situation within the city became increasingly dire. Food and ammunition supplies dwindled, morale waned, and the unity among the rebels began to fracture. Despite these challenges, the rebels held on, their determination fueled by the desire for freedom. The siege of Delhi marked the peak of the rebellion, but it was far from over. And what was the aftermath of this historic struggle? As the rebellion continued, the British forces, under the command of General John Nicholson, rallied their troops and prepared for a decisive counter-offensive. The recapture of Delhi was a brutal affair, marked by the grim reality of war. After a long siege, the city fell back into British hands in late September 1857. This marked the beginning of the end for the rebellion, as the other centers of the revolt also eventually fell. The last Mughal emperor, Bahadur Shah Zafar, was put on trial. Accused of treason, the aged monarch was found guilty. He was exiled to Rangoon, Burma, where he lived out the rest of his days, far from the land he once ruled. His trial marked the end of the Mughal dynasty, a powerful symbol of the old India. The aftermath of the revolt was a period of significant change. The East India Company, which had ruled large parts of India for over 2 centuries, was dissolved. Control of India was transferred directly to the British Crown. This marked the beginning of the British Raj, a period of direct British rule that would last until India's independence in 1947. The revolt had exposed the harsh realities of colonial rule, forcing the British to rethink their governance strategies. They introduced several reforms aimed at appeasing the Indian population and preventing future uprisings. These reforms included greater Indian participation in the administration and a policy of religious neutrality. Yet, the scars of the revolt ran deep. The events of 1857 had exposed the deep divisions between the rulers and the ruled. It had shown the Indian people the true face of colonialism, and the memory of the revolt would linger, a reminder of the struggle for freedom. Thus ended the 1857 revolt, a landmark event that changed the course of Indian history. So, what are the key takeaways from the 1857 revolt? Our exploration of the 1857 revolt has taken us through a fascinating journey of passion, resilience, and a quest for freedom. We've delved into the causes that led to the uprising, with sepoys and civilians alike rebelling against the oppressive policies of the British East India Company. The introduction of the new Enfield rifle, the annexation of Awadh, and the doctrine of lapse, among other factors, all contributed to this monumental backlash. We've also relived the major events of the revolt, from the spark of rebellion in Meerut to the siege of Delhi, the Battle of Kanpur, and the fall of Gwalior. The resilience of India's people was on full display, their courage echoing through the annals of history. In the aftermath of the revolt, we saw the dissolution of the East India Company's rule, replaced by direct governance under the British Crown. The revolt left an indelible mark on the Indian psyche, fueling a sense of nationalism that would grow stronger in the years to come. But what does this all mean in the broader context of Indian history? The 1857 revolt was more than just an uprising. It was a turning point, a clarion call for freedom that reverberated across the length and breadth of the country. It was a symbol of resistance, of the refusal to bow down to foreign rule, a testament to the indomitable spirit of the Indian people. The revolt had a profound impact on the fight for independence, setting the stage for a united struggle against British rule. It served as an inspiration for many freedom fighters, a beacon of hope in the darkest of times. And so, we come to understand the true significance of the 1857 revolt. It was a pivotal moment in Indian history, a testament to the courage of those who dared to challenge the might of the British Empire. It was the first step towards the long journey of India's freedom struggle.